Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast. After a long pause, we are finally here. It's me, Jamie G, and I'm joined once again by Blessings Chibamba. We are coming off one of the greatest Brighton victories ever. Maybe not, but it was a historic victory nonetheless against Man City. We've really given them a blow to the champions of the Prem and the treble winners. Bless, how we feeling today?
Yeah, I think the nice thing about this weekend just gone is when we look back at the end of the season and, people are analysing where the league was won or lost, we will see Brighton on there because at the Emirates we nicked a point and obviously now beating the champions. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, and we'll ignore the loss to Liverpool. We'll put that one behind us because we bounced back super strong. And today we're going to be talking more in depth about that performance, more in depth about some of the star men from that performance, because everyone here at the Daily Brighton podcast had a different man of the match. So we'll be talking about some of the star players and then going into some social media comments that have been circling the web. But first, let's get down to it. Carlos Beliba. What a gem we have found once again from Lille. Bless. Talk to me about his performance on Saturday.
Tony Bloom and his computer on how to find gems has done it again, because I don't know what they're typing into these calculators and these numbers and all these stats, but what a player we found. And, Saturday's game just sort of shows where this guy could go, because if he can do things like that on a consistent level, he unfortunately, I'm going to say it already nice and early, he's not going to stick around for long if he's doing that. So it's a bittersweet. It's like I'm enjoying it, I love it, but the more I see it, the more I'm like, we could be off.
Yeah, it's basically like enjoy it while it lasts. Let's not think about the future. Let's just think about the now. Let's indulge in it, and let's just bathe in the greatness that is Carlos Beliba. But yeah, what a performance! He could be the next big sell-on, I guess, the big money sell-on that we actually do have, or that we do make money on. That's also one of the issues with playing on like primetime TV, of playing at 5:30 when everyone is watching, the whole world is watching. What a time to show the kind of player you are. And boy, did he do that. The bursting runs through the middle. City players bounced off him. They couldn't get close to him. There was one point, actually, this is where I realised what a player is Carlos Beliba is. He sucked in. He had his back to the City goal. And then this was like in our half, had the back to the City goal. Then he sucked in two of the City players, acting as though he was going to play it back. Then he swiveled, chop-turned, straight past Bernardo Silva and I think Mateus Nunes at the time, and then just started sprinting forwards for anyone to try and catch him. And that's when I thought, this guy has just an IQ about his game as well as being an absolute statue of a man.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. For our audio listeners, when Jamie said swiveled, his whole screen started shaking.
yeah, I'm swiveling as well. I'm trying to relive the Carlos Beliba.
Yeah, I thought, he's excellent. And I can really see the confidence coming through now, because he knows that he can protect the ball really well. He knows that he can do, these little tricks to get out really tight areas, because he's strong enough to and smart enough to protect that ball well. And that is a game changer in midfield. The Premier League and professional athletes, sometimes they cancel each other out, and it's not often that you see a player who can have a physical edge and actually show that, and it makes a massive difference. If you can break through a midfield because you're powerful and you're a good ball carrier, you are causing a lot of issues for the opposition.
Yeah, and there was so much versatility in his performance as well. So obviously we know, and like you mentioned there, he's so good at carrying the ball forward. And it's the passing as well in yesterday's performance. Like the Matt O'Reilly goal started from Beliba playing an absolute like drilling the ball into Joao Pedro's feet, past the midfield and past the I think a forward as well, and it was like pinpoint breaking the lines. And then we also saw a couple of other times where he spread the ball wide with like a cross-field ball and to Matoma, who was just constantly fed yesterday. But yeah, it was the passing range is there as well. And that's the other one. The through ball to Matoma. The guy was like just seeing the field differently. He was being a playmaker as well as like the box to box midfielder that he's kind of known for.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to throw this question to you now. What do you think his market value would be? So let's say a team, probably Chelsea, to be honest.
Yeah.
They come knocking on the door in January. How much are you saying? What kind of peas are we saying?
Yeah, well, if Saicedo went for 120 mil to
Oh
Chelsea,
no, this is going to be outrageous.
we know
God.
Chelsea have the money, so I reckon 200. No, nah, I reckon a legit figure at this moment, as we speak today. I reckon it could definitely go up if he carries on with those performances. He only had 45 minutes yesterday, completely changed the game. So I reckon it could easily go up throughout the season if he carries on. But I reckon at this moment, the problem is Chelsea have ruined the market in terms of Saicedo, 120 million, Enzo Fernandez, who somehow can't get a look in at Chelsea anymore, 100 million, 105, whatever it was. Lavia, how much was he? 60, 70?
50, 51?
50. 51. Agate also 50. And he's 20 years old. I think it's going to probably be outrageous, but 70? If you think
Yeah.
about potential, if you think about what he will turn into and the kind of player he is already, he's probably already like on par with Lavia, in my opinion anyway. I don't know, Lavia has been injured a lot. But if he's going for 50, then I think Beliba could get 70. It's outrageous.
Yeah, to be fair, I'll probably agree with you. I'm sort of thinking back to the time where Basuma was sold as well, and he
Hmm.
was showing similar qualities and performances to Belieber before that time, and he went for, I think it was around 65 million. Obviously,
Yeah.
for him, it's not really worked out as well. So it's the risk Premier League clubs have to take. But from what we are seeing, yeah, we've got a real player on our hands, and I don't think Brighton will take anything less than around 80 at this rate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. The players are so valuable to clubs now. Like if you look at Crystal Palace with Sheikh Decore, when Liverpool came knocking for Sheikh Decore, I think they were demanding 60 to 80 million, somewhere in
Yeah,
that price
Mark
range.
Gurhey as well. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Mark Gay, I mean 70 million for him. I think it's what this is the thing with clubs like us. It's what the player means to us. Like how big of a miss will that be? And we're also, let's say we do sell to another Prem club. Let's say it's bloody Chelsea again, or Man City need a CDM with Rodri gone. Let's say we sell him to him, then it's such a big miss for Brighton. It's such a hard player to replace because he is kind of so unique in today's football that you don't find guys that are 6'4", massive, can dribble, can pass, can carry the ball, can break up play. That he's going to be such a loss. And how do you kind of replace that loss? And that's where a different position, but Palace now are struggling to replace Elise in terms of the output that he has. So it's really difficult to find when you are a mid-table kind of club to replace these gems. Although Brighton do it every single season, it seems. Had to throw that in. But yeah, that's our thoughts. That's a good question posed by Bless as well. So if you could all jot down in the comments sections and message us on social media what you think Carlos Beliba's market value should be and would be in today's day and age, that would be good. So yeah, let us know. And after this break.
Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about the platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes UMS, AHS, YA nose and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it super easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
And we are back with the Daily Brighton podcast after hearing the ad from the Italian team. So, guys, go check out the Italian GSBN podcast. But yeah, we're here to talk about Daily Brighton, all things Brighton. And bless, I've got a question for you in this second segment, and that's: we saw a complete change yesterday in the first half and second half performances, and there were key substitutions like Beliba that made that difference in the second half. Obviously, Ayari and Hinchelwood were worthy of starting based on how they played against Liverpool. I think no one can deny that they were absolutely brilliant against Liverpool. They had a lesser game last against Man City. So question to you is, how do you think we line up next game? Who do you reckon makes it in?
I think from what we've seen, it's going to be difficult to drop certain players, but some of the main boys are back. Joao Pedro, so I think he has to play. I think what we'll do is maybe shift Ritter to the right hand side, and then Joao Pedro comes into that left half space alongside obviously the man himself, Mr. Danny Welbeck, is not going to be moved in my opinion.
Yeah, of course.
Matoma keeps his place, and I think Beliba should definitely come in instead of Ayari. I've been really impressed with Ayari, but Beliba is just doing more in terms of just performance. I do also think Ayari off the bench is a useful player. I think he can come on and affect games. I believe that if we go back to the Everton game, I think he came off the bench, and it looks really, really impressive. So he can still, impact football matches, in off the bench.
Yeah, he got the goal disallowed against Everton, but he was there in the right position, and I think it was a marginal offside that basically cost him a goal. But yeah, he was class that game in terms of coming off the bench. But yeah, you mentioned the star men that we do have that have come back. Another player, and that is the winner, Matt O'Reilly. He made his return back to the lineup and made his Premier League debut yesterday against Man City. Do you think he starts? Because I'd be tempted, I think it might be too soon. I'm arguing myself here. I think it might be too soon. But I am tempted to start him. I think the Beliba and Matt O'Reilly partnership could actually be something good.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. I think he's a brilliant player, to be honest. I do think it might be too soon to start him, though. I think Jack Hinchelwood's has been very, very good the last sort of 4 or 5 games. I think he definitely keeps his place, in my opinion. But another sort of interesting part that's coming out from all of this, and Matt O'Reilly obviously being back and scoring that winner. What are your thoughts on sort of his place in the team over Matt Swiffer? What does this mean for Matt Swiffer, really?
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask that question because that's what we were talking about when we were watching the game, wasn't it? Is how far down the pecking order is Matt Swiffer now? And it's safe to say he's not had the best start to his Brighton career. He's cost us against Wolves. Hate to remind everyone of that, but and then even like games that he hasn't cost us the win, he's not looked great on the ball. He's been not the best defensively either, not the strongest in tackles. It is, and I think a perfect indictment of how things haven't gone his way so far is Jakob Moder came on ahead of Matt Swiffer
Oh yeah.
against Man City. When we were trying to defend the 2-1 win, it was Jakob Moder who hurts the turn to and not Matt Swiffer, our £30 million signing this season. And that kind of says everything for everything. Like, I really do hope that he can turn things around. And I do think he can turn things around. But yeah, this is starting to look like one of Tony Bloom's only blunders, potentially.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I think it speaks volumes that he didn't come on. Or perhaps now I'm arguing with myself because I'm like, perhaps I'm reading a little bit too much into it. But looking at it from afar, because that's where we are, I think it does speak volumes that he's not come on and Hertz has gone with, the other options. And what I think is that there just must be something that's not quite right just yet. I don't know if it's in terms of the system or just in terms of him adjusting to life in a different country, and he's just not quite there really. And I've not seen the player we were sort of raving about and buzzing about during the summer, because what I was expecting is a tall centre midfielder, which he is obviously, but a more dominant player than what we've got. I thought he's going to be winning aerial duels. I thought he was going to
Yeah.
be covering ground, and when a fullback's gone up, he's the one dropping in those gaps to cover. But we just have not seen that. And I remember Joe speaking a lot about his ability on the ball as well. Not been impressed really. I've not seen any moments where I'm like, oh wow, like that's a real player.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you, I hope he can turn it around. I hope he finds some form somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. Because in terms of the thing I've been most unimpressed by, or disappointed is probably a better word, is him on the ball. Like, when you look back at the Feyenoord videos and like the highlights packages that he had, and also like watching Feyenoord games in the Europa League last season. I think they were in Europa League or Champions League, wherever I think it was Europa. You could see a player that was like really comfortable on the ball, looking to kind of the unpressable kind of player, but it just shows the transition in leagues. Like the jump is the gulf between the Eredivisie and the Prem, I think is so big that it gets found out even more when you are that CDM that's receiving it very deep. Because where he once looked at Feyenoord, like he was really comfortable on the ball, like going at his own pace, and just trying to trick people and do little feints and things like that. In the Prem, that's just not working. And he, instead of looking like really comfortable and really relaxed, he just looks slow on the ball and like a bit lazy on the ball, like a bit not sharp enough. And that's where I think we're starting to see a massive gulf between the two leagues. And I think that's the problem. One point I did want to touch on earlier, I noticed that you put Jorginho Ruta to play outright. Do you think that's a reflection on, because Adingra also didn't have his best game against Man City, which is yet another like below average performance, we'll say. Do you think that's actually the way we're going forward? Because I would be inclined to agree in terms of playing Ruta out wide rather than Minter, who's suffered a knock, and Adingra.
Yeah, I think I've always felt that Adingra's more effective coming off the left. I think that's where he just looks more comfortable. I feel like when he's on the right, he doesn't really want to go to that on his left foot, and everyone knows that. So it's like, oh, all he's going to do is try and take you down to the byline. And when players do that, you need to be. There's going to be a moment where you're shoulder to shoulder with a fullback, and he's not the most robust of wingers. So he gets shrugged off the ball
Choked
quite
off,
easily.
yeah.
So he's not. I don't think he's effective on the right, and I just think Ruta's performances. It'd be harsh to leave him out, just because Joao Pedro is back. So he can operate off the right hand side. He works really hard, and tactically, I think he's shown that he's capable of doing that because he's played in different roles already in his short career at Brighton.
Yeah, I would, because I think Ruta has actually been excellent. And I don't even think, I think, yes, against Man City, I think he was even all right then. I think Joao Pedro was just a different level in terms of when he came on. But I think it would be extremely harsh to drop Ruta. And I would love to see a way of trying to put Joao Pedro, Ruta, and obviously Welbeck in the same squad or in the same team. But yeah, so that's how we think we're going to be lining up after the international breaks. We'll give Hertzler some time to think about that over the next week and a half while there are internationals going on, and we'll find out after the break. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day. Hello and welcome back to the Daily Brighton podcast. It's your boy Jamie G, and we are going to be talking about some things that have grinded mine and Bless's gears. And it's the comments that have been circling social media. And if you're familiar with what's been going on, but Rory Jennings, a content creator for Chelsea, has said this about Brighton. Brighton are everything that's wrong with football, alluding to the fact that we've suddenly become good, and that's an issue for Mr. Rory Jennings. Bless. What are your feelings towards what he was saying on the overlap?
Yeah, I think to add some context, so he's basically talking about Brighton being in the Europa League, and I think they were beating Ajax 2-0.
Yeah.
And essentially it's saying that because the Premier League has so much money, little teams like Brighton are doing, are qualifying for European football and beating giants like Ajax. And my instant thoughts is, what do you want them to do? So Brighton have qualified for European football. Do you want them to be like, nah, we're a small club, we don't fancy it? I think he's
lose.
I think he's completely got it wrong. I think that football's all about all the teams having a good go at it, and everyone loves an underdog story. Brighton playing against Ajax is an absolutely unbelievable story. Brighton beating Ajax is even better. So he's completely got it wrong in my opinion there.
Yeah, simply put, he's an idiot. I mean, what is he on about? What is he on about? Clubs like Brighton are everything that's wrong with football. It's the other way around. Clubs like Brighton are everything that's right with football. It shows that you can basically, if you look 15 years ago where Brighton were, to look at us now and where we are now, actually in the Champions League places, it's a shot, like the epitome of everything the Football League stands for, in terms of you can go from like being a League One club with where fans potentially kind of losing hope with you, to suddenly you find yourself 15 years later in the Premier League, mixing up with the big boys, and like we've just seen on the weekend, beating teams that are in the Big Six, like we have with Man City, like we have with Tottenham, and drawing against Arsenal. And giving Liverpool a good go. If you said that to clubs 15 to Brighton 15 years ago, some fans might have thought you were crazy, or some fans might have thought, you know what, that's the Football League, anything can happen. That it's everything that's right with football is the fact that these smaller clubs, and I'm also going to include Bournemouth in this, Brentford in this. If you look at where they were 15 years ago to where they are now, it's like a great showcase of what little clubs can achieve if they recruit well, if they keep performing well, if they hire well, and just do everything around the club perfectly.
Yeah, I think one thing I will say, I do agree with the fact that there's a lot of money in the Premier League, and it's creating a gap between all the other leagues. I think in the last pod we were talking about the gap, the difference in quality between the Premier League and the Dutch division.
Yeah.
And that is down to money, but it's not the team's fault that the Premier League is generating this kind of money.
Yeah.
And I think people who are much smarter than you and I, who work for FIFA and the PFA and UEFA and all those people who wear suits and talk about football, they need to figure out a way to bridge that gap, because the gap is big, but it's not necessarily a team's fault. You can't just say that's what's wrong with football,
Yeah.
because that's not their fault. They qualified, did it properly, and you know, and they were in a competition. And again, another point is it's not like Brighton spent billions to get into the Europa League. It's actually been a lot of hard work and a lot of good recruitment, using their money well. It started a long time ago. Like, we've seen these so-called like big clubs that they want back in, like the likes of like Leeds and Blackburn, and you know, we can say they've not used their money as wisely as we have at times, and that's perhaps why we're here.
Yeah, that's the point I really wanted to mention. I'm so glad you brought it up. It's obviously, yeah, I completely agree in terms of the Premier League has way more money. Um, as a Portuguese guy that follows Benfica as well, I know the difference in league is so different. But yeah, you can't pin it on one club, and especially pinning it on a club like Brighton, who haven't spent hundreds of millions like his Chelsea, or billions in Chelsea's circumstance. But it's just through great scouting, picking the right managers like consecutively. We've not really ever had a poor manager. I mean, Graham Potter was class for us, De Zerbi was class, and now Hertzler looks to be the truth as well. It's through great scouting and smart spending. Like, we are probably a club that's actually generated, thanks to his club Chelsea, lots of profit from these signings that we have made. So yeah, you can't pinpoint a club, and I think it's great to see clubs like Brighton be rewarded in terms of, because they've probably made a profit long term over other clubs.
Yeah, and like if you look at some of the players we have sold, like Moises Caicedo, I can't remember the fee we got him in for, but compared to the fee he left for, it's absolute pennies, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's insane. And the list goes on. And even the likes of like Ben White as well, that was a lot of money
Yeah.
just a couple of years ago, around 50, 60 million pounds. Like, it's happened so many times. And that's why Brighton at the moment have had the privilege to spend the kind of money we spent this year, because they've invested well, they've recruited well in the past and sold on and, you know, made profit. So you get that chance to use that money.
Yeah, and just what we were mentioning in the first segment of how much would Beliba be in today's market value, and we both think like 70 million or around that. We bought him for 20, so that's just another player we're going to make profit on. Yasin Ayaru, who started for us against Man City and Liverpool now, bought him for 800k from Gothenburg. That is just such smart spending, and his market value might be around 20 million. He's another young 20-year-old. Like, it's pure smart signings. Mitoma's another one. Dingra's even another one. I mean, so many now.
Joao Pedro as well. I think he came in for about 30 million pounds from
Yeah,
Watford. There's no way Brighton will be selling him for less than 60.
exactly.
I mean, that's double.
How much do we sign Danny Welbeck for? I mean, because he's 100 million.
That's a good question. I should know that. As the Danny Welbeck spokesman, I'm so disappointed I don't know that, and I'm going to apologise publicly to all the listeners. I should know that. I don't know that. I'm sorry, and I'll do better next time.
Yeah, that'll be Bless's homework for the next pod, and he'll start off the pod by saying how much it is. But yeah, those are our. Yeah, we needed to get that off our chest, didn't we, Bless? Because that has been eating away at me ever since I heard it on that podcast. But yeah.
Yeah, no, he always comes up with some interesting comments, that guy. So I don't know why he's gone after Brighton there.
Yeah, because of all teams. It's probably because they beat us. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, they keep funding us to get into these positions, so we'll keep taking it. You know, if they're going to offer 120 mil for rando players, then we'll take it. But yeah, on that note, it's been lovely speaking to you again, Bless. We hope you've all enjoyed listening on your run, at work, on your commute home, wherever it might be. But yeah, until next time, it's been the Daily Brighton podcast, and peace out.
Thanks for listening,
Every
guys.
club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.